G'day everyone. So you've got yourself an E46 BMW and you've put a new set of shockies on it, new set of springs, and yeah, the stance is looking awesome. It does handle a little bit better, but it's not quite perfect. So if you want your E46 to handle like a race car, then hang around, because in this video I'm going to show you all the suspension components on your E46 BMW and explain what you can do to get your E46 turning into the corners and getting the power down exactly when you want it. To get the most out of your E46, you really need to tighten things up. I personally believe the E46 is the best handling BMW of all time, but just because it's great doesn't mean to say we can't make it exceptional. So to show you, I'm going to get down on the ground and underneath my E46 to put a spotlight on those components which require some attention. Okay, so I'm back at the front wheel, and I just wanted to give you a quick look at the R Coilovers that I've installed on my E46 BMW. It comes with a set of Coney adjustable struts as well, so I'll get 5 settings on the front, 3 settings on the back. This is a really good kit for my needs, and price wise it's not a budget kit, but it's roughly in the middle. Now the other option is you can go what they call a Coupe kit, which is basically a spring and a strut combination. That's only the beginning in terms of getting the best out of the handling performance for your E46. With your springs and struts, where it fixes to the chassis at the top there, there's what they call a strut mount. And basically it's a rubber bushing which helps to prevent any lateral movement in the strut rod and to provide a bit of cushioning for the harsh impact that the shock absorber and the spring go through when they're hitting bumps and undulations in the road. So this here is the standard strut assembly off my E46 BMW. And as you can see, it's looking a little bit worse for wear, and particularly the top strut mount. Now if your car has done about 100,000 Ks and you've not replaced your strut mount as yet, now's the time to do it. Because even by simply replacing the strut mount, you're going to greatly improve the handling on your E46. If you want to take it a step further, you can go to an adjustable camber plate. I've just installed the standard E46 strut mount, but I've put in a reinforcement plate to help take out any flex in the metalwork at the top of the strut tower. So that's going to give me a bit of extra protection there, and then later on I'm still weighing up which option I will go for in terms of an adjustable strut mount for the front. So the main reason why I haven't put one in yet is I haven't really decided which one I want to go for. They've all got varying degrees of pros and cons, and I haven't been able to nut it out. So what I'm going to do is just run with the standard setup for now, see what I like and what I don't like about it, and that should then help me make a decision which setup I go for the front. At the bottom of the front suspension, you've then got your lower control arm, and there's a mount which fixes to the chassis at the back of the lower control arm, and that's got generally just like a rubber bush in it. This here is one of the bearings off the front lower control arm on your E46 BMW, and it attaches from the control arm to the chassis. Now this one here has got a 70 durometer polyurethane bushing in it. Ensuring these bearings are in really good condition is an essential part in terms of getting the best performance out of your suspension on your E46 BMW. So to help firm things up, you can install a mount which has got a polyurethane bushing in it. It's going to take out a bit of that flex that you get from a rubber bushing. But what I've installed is the bearing type, or the spherical bearing type from Turner Motorsport. And that's really going to help to firm up that lower control arm, take out a lot of that movement, and help to give a much more precise and direct steering response. If you don't believe that it has been maintained, at the very least you should be replacing it with the standard BMW mount. But if you go into that hassle, I personally would, for a few extra dollars, be installing at least a polyurethane mount there to help tighten things up in your front suspension. Now the other thing I've done at the front suspension is I've installed a Turner Motorsport Performance sway bar. So it's a much thicker diameter sway bar than the standard, plus it's adjustable as well. I can either firm that up or soften it up depending what I want in terms of body roll and understeer oversteer. If you want to learn more about the sway bar, click on the link above to a video I made earlier where I outline all the benefits of a performance sway bar. So click on the link above. But basically, yeah, I've installed the Turner Motorsport Performance sway bar. It comes with polyurethane bushes where it mounts to the car. And because it's adjustable, I've also installed the adjustable end links. What I'm going to do now is get back underneath the car and we'll have a look at what I've done on the rear, because most of the upgrades that I've made to my suspension on my E46 I've done on the rear of the car. So we're going to go have a look at that. Crikey, it's tight under here. Just above my head here is the rear sway bar, which is the Turner Motorsport Performance sway bar set. This one is adjustable and I've got 3 fixing points, so I can set it up soft, medium or hard. And to go with that, the kit comes with polyurethane bushes, and also I ordered adjustable end links as well. Rather awkwardly, I'm holding up the standard rear sway bar off my E46 BMW. It's got one fixing point where the end link attaches to it and then attaches to the bottom of the rear control arm. Now when you install a performance sway bar, which is adjustable, you also need to install adjustable end links. So when you make your adjustments in the tension on the sway bar, you can then adjust the length of the end link so that you don't preload the sway bar and ensure that the sway bar works exactly as it should. I've not got this hooked up as yet, and the reason for that is that you need to have full weight of the car on the suspension components before you tighten up or adjust your sway bar, or else what will happen is you'll get preload in the sway bar and it's not going to work effectively. This here is the replacement rear lower control arm that I've installed from Turner Motorsport. Not sponsored. And the reason I opted for this is that it's a single piece design and it's made from aircraft grade aluminium, so it's extremely strong. And because it's a single piece design, there's no joins where they've welded pieces together, which can be a weak link. And it allows me to adjust the camber setting on the rear after I've lowered the ride height with my coilover suspension. This is the standard rear lower control arm off your E46 BMW. And as you can see, it's a fixed length. It's made out of pressed steel, so it is lightweight and may have a tendency to bend or flex, particularly under heavy loads or really bumpy roads. So what I really love about the Turner Motorsport adjustable rear lower control arm is it's much more rigid for one thing, but also I can adjust the camber after I've lowered the rear suspension on my E46 to get more tyre in contact with the road, which will allow me to get the power down coming out of the corners much sooner. Because when you lower it, it's going to want to pull the top of the tyre in towards the inside of the car, and that's going to affect you when you're coming out of corners and things like that, because you don't have full tyre contact on the road. It's going to reduce the amount of grip of the tyres and limit how quickly you can get the power down as you're coming out of the corners. And then combined with adjustable sway bars where I can increase or reduce the stiffness of the sway bar to help improve understeer and oversteer, then I get my turn in a lot more precise and I get my power down a lot quicker coming out of the corners. So just that simple upgrade of upgrading the sway bars and the rear lower control arm gives me so much better suspension performance. So back out from underneath the car, I'm going to have a look at the rear trailing arm. And inside the rear trailing arm where it fixes to the chassis, there's a couple of bushes in there. And if you haven't replaced them yet, their chances are they're going to be due for replacement. And they have a really big impact in terms of the toe-in on your rear wheels. If they're really stiff and they don't have a lot of give in them, or they're so worn out that that's causing the rear trailing arm to move around, that's going to certainly affect your handling. At the very least, you should be replacing it with the standard E46 mount, but you can also upgrade to a polyurethane mount, which is going to firm that up and help to firm up your rear suspension and keep the tyre contact on the road and the wheels pointing in the correct direction. So what I've installed on my E46 is the rubber mount, but I've opted for the slightly firmer M3 specification rear trailing arm bush. And then I've installed the aluminium shims from Turner Motorsport, and that's going to stop that rubber bushing from wanting to move and flex laterally or sideways. So it's not going to be as firm as a polyurethane mount, but certainly firmer than the standard E46 rubber mount. So it's sort of a bit of a compromise there. The reason I didn't want to go the polyurethane mount is that I wanted to minimize NVH. If you've not replaced your rear trailing arm bushers, then put it on your list. It's the job you can do at home. You'll require a special tool to be able to remove and install the new bushers, but it's not expensive. Now also, you can also upgrade the bushings in the upper control arm, which is that weird shaped aluminium assembly that sits at the top of the axle basically. There's a rubber bush at either end of that assembly, and they can both be replaced. And once again, I've upgraded to the M3 rubber bushing for that. Gives me a slightly firmer bushing without the NVH of a polyurethane or a solid mount. I've done all these upgrades in my own garage with the car up on jack stands. So yeah, certainly doable. Sorry about the weird lighting effects under here, guys, but not much I can do. Anyway, what I wanted to show you was the diff, which is sitting right above my head. Now, there's several bushes around the diff. There's 3 diff bushes, one at the back, which is a really large one, and 2 towards the front. And then the carrier, which holds the diff, there are 4 bushes which absorb vibration between the diff carrier and the chassis. I've installed Super Pro polyurethane diff bushes and also Super Pro polyurethane diff carrier bushes. Not sponsored, by the way. And that is all designed to help firm up any movement of the diff and the diff carrier and allow more of that power to go through the axles to the rear wheels and to keep the rear wheels planted on the road under heavy acceleration and across undulations on the road and round bends and corners and things. It's a sort of job that you can do at home by yourself. You don't need a hoist to do it, although if you're fortunate enough to have one, it's going to make the job a lot easier. But I've done it at home with the car up on jack stands and also with a bush pressing kit that I got from ECS Tuning. Not sponsored. If you are going to do this job at home by yourself, allow yourself a whole weekend, because the whole diff's got to come out and the diff carrier, and it's not a quick project, but you'll save yourself hundreds of dollars by doing it yourself. Even if you've got to buy a press to press out the old bushes, you're still going to come out way ahead by doing it yourself in terms of cost savings. So as you can tell, most of the things that I'm talking about are in relation to the bushes and either replacing them to a rubber bush or upgrading to a polyurethane bushing. Now, if you're going a full track setup, you can even get most of these bushings in a solid metal or aluminium bushing, and that's really going to tighten up the suspension in your E46, but you're going to get a hell of a lot of NVH. I guess if it's a track car, you're not going to worry too much about the amount of noise in the cabin, the amount of vibration in the cabin, how harsh it is across the bumps. So yeah, I'm going to get out of here, or try and get out of here, and we'll wrap this thing up. So what do you think of those upgrades for the suspension on your E46 BMW? So drop me a comment below to let me know what you thought of those upgrades. And if you've done any of the upgrades yourself, how about you leave a comment that we can share with other viewers in terms of your experience with noise, vibration and harshness, and the benefits from upgrading standard rubber bushings to polyurethane. Now, if you want to see more content about BMW performance upgrades, maintenance, and to follow the build of my E46, don't forget to subscribe and tickle the bell so you get notified each time I upload a new video. Now, if you want to learn more about your E46 sway bars, you can click and watch this video here. Or if you want to watch the video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy the most, then you can watch this video here. But I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. Until we meet again, look after yourselves, stay safe, and TTFN.